Hey everybody, welcome back. Good to see you here again. Today I've got a very interesting conspiracy theory for you. The flat earth. Now this was pretty cool because I researched a little bit of this while I was building my model. And I gotta tell you, I found some really interesting things when it came to researching the flat earth. So for those of you that don't know what that is, it's basically what it sounds like. People believe that the earth is more flat, similar to like a disc type thing that's held basically by a border of ice. And they think that that ice is Antarctica. It's actually quite an interesting conspiracy theory. So I'll tell you what, why don't we get to work and I'll show you how I built it. Okay everybody, so to start things off, what I did was I used the circle jig on my hot wire cutter and cut out a big circle. There you see it there. Then what I did was I used the hot wire cutter again and I cut a border all the way around that circle, a really jagged kind of border, just to kind of mimic the ice wall that I wanted to build, you know, the ice cliffs that are in the Antarctica, and you can see that there. Next, what I did was I glued that down to a piece of foam board. I wanted to have a nice little base. So I did that, glued it down, and then all I did was I just trimmed the edges around the circle itself, the ice wall, and moved on from there. Next what I did was I used the inside of that circle that I cut out. Now that's going to be the continents, the land masses for the inside. I used the hot wire cutter again, cut them into the shapes I like. I did a dry fit there. And then the next thing I'm going to do here is just simply start shaving away the foam. So I wanted to make this a little more geographically interesting, having some peaks and valleys and such. So that's what I did there with the razor, and it turned out pretty cool. So the next thing here is I used another inner piece from that circle that I cut out, and it looked kind of cool. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to make this into a couple of mountain ranges. So that's exactly what I did. I just cut up that piece you see there, cut a couple of slices out of that jagged edged piece, and I made a couple of mountain ranges. They turned out a little bit better than I thought. When I was going through this at the beginning, like right here, I was kind of thinking, I don't know if this is gonna really work out, but then like the other pieces, I started to form it, used some more slices, cut into it, and it turned out really good. I was actually really happy with the way it turned out. And then all I did was I glued that down into the continent, the piece of land there, and that was about it. I had a couple of mountain ranges ready to go. All I needed to do was paint them up and move on from there. So here it is, just again putting the glue down, positioning it to where I liked it, and then let it harden, and here we go. So I let that aside for a bit and I moved on to the ice wall. So this is once again one of my preferred methods of texturing is drywall compound. So I use drywall compound over all of this ice wall, and what that did was give me super texture. And I really do enjoy working with this because you can build it up in so many ways. It holds its shape. You can make peaks, you can pull it to give you some sharp peaks, sharp edges. I really like it. Here I'm just scraping it with that plastic tool, and it gave me a lot of texture on there, so I was really happy with that. Alright, next what I did was I moved on to the mountain range continent there, and using the same drywall compound, drywall mud, just started to spread it all around. Nice little peanut butter action there. Getting in all the places where I used the Olfa knife to cut some ridges, cut some depth and interesting features into those mountains. And basically, again, just spread it all over the place, making sure I got some really cool texture. And there you can see finished product with the drywall mud. Nice and easy compound to use. I think more people should be using it if they're not. It's really interesting stuff to use. All right, and here's something that I didn't know how to do. I just threw it together. All I did was I cut up some really thin wire. Now these are the trees that I made. I just dipped the end of the wire in glue and then sprinkled some small static, I think it's 4mm static grass over that that wire with the glue on it, and just simply let them dry like that. That was pretty much it. I thought they turned out really cool. And then I let those dry and went to painting the continents. So here's the black wash that I'm doing right now on the mountain ranges. That's just going to give it a little bit more depth, a little bit more interesting color, and then went over it with a dry brush of white. Wanted to make it nice and heavy to simulate a lot of snow on those peaks, and turned out really well. So those trees that I made a little bit earlier, now what I'm doing is I'm just taking them and putting a little bit of glue on the end of them and putting them in the continent there. So hey, I just want to take this opportunity to say, if you like the content, if you like what's going on here, I encourage you to please give me a like, so the algorithm can show this video to more people. So now here we are using some of that homemade flocking that I had made, and I'm just helping to fill that area. I didn't want to use all trees, so that's kind of mimicking the rest of the forest on that continent. And then going on to the ice wall. After I painted the ice wall, I used a little bit of blue, I used some white, and then I went over it with the black wash there, which really darkened it up. But don't worry, because the next step after that was a nice bright pure white dry brush. And again, I did this really heavy because I wanted it to be a really snow-like color. After that, I went to work on the sea bed, the sea floor, making it all nice and blue. And after that was dried, I simply hot glued the continents where I thought they would look the best on the bottom. And there you go. I think it looks really good at this point. At this point, I was really happy that it was coming together. And then I made up a batch of resin. Now what you don't see here is after I poured that resin, there was a little pinhole of a leak. So I had a little bit of a mess all over the mat that I usually work on, but it turned out okay. And then all I did was I went back and I did some touch-ups with some paint. A little bit of resin kind of creeped into the grass and stuff, so I did a little bit of painting on there just to touch it up. Then I used some high gloss Mod Podge on the surface of the water to give it some ripples, to give it some water effect, and that turned out pretty cool. Moving on, I painted the whole side of the actual ice wall, and then finished it off with a nice dark black wash, which again darkened it, made it look really good in all the crevices and stuff, and then went with a dry brush white. Okay everybody, I thank you so much for joining me. Here's the final product. We'll see you again soon. Take care.